What's up? What? Yes, I heard that. Congratulations. Well, it's nothing wrong with being
I happened to luck out. I believe it killed me. Something other than well armed, waiting for it to be well known. It shows
Where did
no, I went to
Anybody
that's all they do. Cutting the empty.
Well, that's cool. I heard some terrible about that. That's really congratulations.
I'm over the hill now for that. So I have to just worry about what 80-year-olds worry about otherwise.
You're looking good. You're looking good.
It is a couple minutes past.
That's the education.
Welcome. I'm Gail Sastad. I'm the Associate Director for the Bob Graham Center in charge of the public programs, and we are very glad to see all of you here. Tonight we want to thank the Dial Center for Written and Oral Communication and the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program for sponsoring this program along with us, Bob Graham Center. I'll remind you to turn off your cell phones, please. At the end of the program, we will have an opportunity for Q&A. And now to introduce our program, and the speaker is Dr. Ed Kellerman, who is a senior lecturer with the Dial Center.
Great, thank you very much, Gail. And as my dad often said, learning never stops. And I've been to many dozens of speeches and presentations here. And about once or twice a year, we sponsor an event here to bring speakers of great importance. And for the next hour, you are going to learn about Florida's history and be fascinated by our speaker. However, we do have, there we go. There's always a funding problem. Our funding is inconsistent, and we urge you to donate both to the Bob Graham Center and also the Sam Proctor Oral History Program. Now, some of you know that I collect political memorabilia. I've been collecting it for years, and a few months ago, someone sent me some Bob Graham stuff. I've also gotten some from Adele and Bob Graham themselves. They've given me some name tags and badges, and I put them up in the museum in my house. And you're all welcome to come see my museum at some point. I brought two of those posters over there from Bob Graham's Workday campaigns. And as you see, he's a real man, and just one of our beloved governors and senators. Well, in one of those boxes, I got like 50 bumper stickers, 200 buttons. And my wife said, you don't really need 199 buttons. 49 of those stickers. So what I did was I put them in these nice little display cases, and I asked Governor Graham to sign the bumper stickers. And I said, how about I put these in these display cases and sell them to the public and donate the proceeds to the Sam Proctor Oral History Program? He looked at me with that twinkle in his eye and he said, I like you, Edmund. Very good. He and my mother are the only people that call me Edmund. So if you have $20 or $30 hanging around, we'd love to give these to you. I've got some larger frames there, maybe $25 or $30. I think I bought 4 or 5 of them. I still have about a dozen back in my house. So please be generous. After you buy Cynthia's book, please fork it over because we really do need the money. How can you donate? Well, take a look. Just go to bobgrahamcenter.ufl.edu. Go right into there, and they'll give you a code for the Sam Proctor Oral History Program. If you want to take one tonight and donate tomorrow, please be my guest, and we'd love to have you do that because, as you know, higher education funding is very inconsistent.
You mean the Bob Graham Center, not the same?
The bobgrahamcenter.ufl.edu is the link to the donation sites here, and that money will go to fund some of the interns that might end up helping Cynthia with her oral history projects, or some of the people that can't afford to go on some of the field trips and stuff. But your money will be well used, and we really appreciate you donating. With that, a few years ago, at the Heritage Days at Silver Springs, which is now a state park, I just ran into Cynthia with my wife and just saw her with her book. And as she talked, you ever look at someone in the eyes as they're talking and realize, hey, here's a friend and a colleague for life. But also when she told me about her project, how she collected all the data and did all of these oral histories and the people that she involved with, I was just amazed. And then I read her book. It's an excellent, excellent read. And I knew I had a friend for life. So I brought her into my intercultural communication class, which I teach right over there in Roth's Hall. And it just happened to be the section on prejudice and ethnocentrism. And what amazed me about the students is that they had never really heard about this. Nobody's really ever heard about Paradise Park, or even that Florida was a segregated state and stuff, but they really got a good education. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some of the background and history of this, some of the major players, some of the major activities, and then some of the efforts to preserve this, as well as the highway marker, which is the only vestige left of Paradise Park. With that, please give a big warm welcome to Cynthia Wilson Graham.
Professor Kellerman, hey, good to see you.
My biggest fan.
One of your biggest fans. There are many of us.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good afternoon. I'm a very informal type of person, and everybody's sitting so far back. But I'm just here to talk about Paradise Park. How many of you ever been to Silver Springs? I guess I need to stand over this way so Silver Springs again? Silver Springs, Silver Springs.
More than once? More than 5 times?
More than 5 times? I don't think my mic is up. Can you hear me? Up.
Johnny Weissmiller?
Yes,
He was there more than 5 times.
it sure was. I'm testing my mic. Testing it.
It's too loud.
Too low?
We can hear you before you were standing there.
I need to look at the screen. Once you get over a certain age, you need to look at that screen.
No problem.
That's good.
Yes.
Follow the script.
Paradise Park was a part of Silver Springs. So many of you raised your hand saying that you've been to Silver Springs, but how many of you know that Paradise Park was a part of Silver Springs?
Because of you.
But the interesting fact is, Paradise Park had the same owners as Silver Springs. Unlike some of the other beaches and the park areas, Paradise Park was owned by Ray and Davison, but I'm gonna follow this script so I won't get off hand. My journey began back in 2005 or so, and this is a picture at Paradise Park where the water is. Back in 2005, I seen a picture depicted at Howard Academy, and it was a community center, but I did not know that Paradise Park even existed. Had no clue that there was a Paradise Park, and I think that when I was going through grade school, we were not taught about Paradise Park. We knew that Silver Springs existed, but we did not know Paradise Park existed at all. So in 2005, I met with Bruce Moser, which is the underwater photographer, the great underwater photographer that documented and built underwater cameras. He had the sole executive rights of shooting pictures at Paradise Park and Silver Springs. Bruce passed away a year or so ago at age 99, but he was such a wonderful person. And thank you for pointing to his picture right there on the end. He was elated to share his collection of vintage photographs with me. Before there was a Paradise Park, before anything existed at the Springs, we know that this was native territory, right? The land was inhabited by Native Americans. However, the Native Americans was pushed off the land at Silver Springs. In 1842, did you know that they encouraged white settlers to come and they offered them land to get rid of the native population? Did you know that? I didn't. And then after that, we created these laws called Jim Crow. Jim Crow was not even a person, but they gave him a name, Jim Crow. But this legalized segregation is what it was all about, and it existed almost 80 years. On the right-hand side of the picture, you'll see Marsha Phelps. She's the one who wrote the book on America Beach. All of these biases, do you have any biases yourself?
We all do.
In some shape or form, you do. Are you biased because of a person's race, or their class, or wealth, their gender, their religion? Are you biased because they have a disability? We come with our own biases, but when you see someone else mistreating another individual, are you willing to stand up and stop them from treating someone wrong? Or will you turn your head the other way just because you see someone being mistreated? Will you speak out and speak up? Or will you not use your voice at all? Election day in Ocoee, Florida. You had African American voters deny their rights to vote. And because they tried to vote, their homes was burned, the Masonic lodges, the churches, the school, everything was burned down. But if you go to Ocoee today, it's one of the nicest areas in the state of Florida. And that's where one of our Paradise Park beauty queens lived, in Ocoee. 1921 to 1946, we're talking about these same Jim Crow laws. But lynchings in the state of Florida, 4.5 for every 10,000 blacks. Florida had one of the highest rate of lynchings. Twice as many as Alabama. We hear about Alabama all the time. And we talk about Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. But Florida is right there in the same numbers. And then we talk about the Rosewood Massacre. Just because someone said that someone did something wrong to them. They never found any evidence. But just because you were black, you could be considered harmed, killed, tormented, just because someone said that you did something to them. And in We had to grow from the poor. Ernest, Charles, Samuel, Walter was accused of raping an individual. Did you know they just got an apology, even though they're all deceased 70 years later? That there was no wrongdoing? But they were not here, they're not here to hear that apology. And right here at the University of Florida, I've been trying to find where the statue is at the campus. If anybody can tell me where the statue is. In 1949, the same year that Paradise Park opened, Virgil D. Hawkins tried to apply to law school here at the University of Florida. But he was denied solely based on his race. Right here at the University of Florida. And there are some other cases that's happened within the last decade, right here at the University of Florida. Before Paradise Park opened, there were many, many, many landowners. But Ray and Davison seen the big picture. Before the land Paradise Park was developed, it was Paradise Landing. And Paradise Landing was the park that was featured to be in competition to Silver Springs. And Silver Springs had white boat captains. Silver Springs had black boat captains. But Paradise Landing was supposed to have white boat captains. And you know, white people are supposed to be smarter than black people, so the person who owned this park assumed that they can get better participation at their park, but they didn't. Ray and Davison bought him out too, and that was in my report. But did you know the Negro Motorist book? How many of you heard of this green book? Oh, you got some scholars. I never knew that there was a Negro Motorist. When I get ready to go for a hotel or whatever, I just call up and make a reservation. The Negro Motorist was assembly a book that you had to use if you was African American to say where you could travel to. You could not just go to any hotel throughout the state or throughout the South and stay. You had nowhere to go. And at Paradise Park, when you visited, there was no hotel accommodations for you. You had to house with other people or other church members. That's how they housed people at Paradise Park. The hundreds of thousands of guests that they had. This whole Jim Crow era, Jim Crow was something else. But it divided education, recreational facilities, marriages. You couldn't even choose the person that you wanted to marry. The restrooms that were divided, the drinking fountain, hotels, even burial grounds. Do you know that there are burial grounds now that you cannot bury an African American person in? Because they are still segregated in some places. Unless you have a family member, there's a huge one right in Marion County. If you don't have a relative buried in the cemetery, you cannot bury a relative of African American descent in that cemetery. Hospitals. Although the minorities prospered during the same time period, no matter what we were dealing with, no matter what we were going through, it did not matter. We still knew how to make the best of every situation. And I say we, but most of you know that I was not there. But we know how to make the best of every situation.
Like power, sister. Like power.
Even though I wasn't there. In 1949, it was not business as usual. Ray and Davison, who's featured in this picture, they knew that it was a potential business opportunity for them. They owned Silver Springs. All of their workers, the majority of their workers were African Americans. You can take the people out, the guests, for a ride on the boat ride. You can keep the gardening up at the park, but the families, your family could not come to Silver Springs at all. You were not welcome to come to Silver Springs, but you could work there, but you couldn't bring your family at Silver Springs. They even had segregated bathrooms at Silver Springs. During the same time, you worked there, you employee there, but you still had your quarters that you had to stay in. But then you had Paradise Park. Paradise Park was a safe haven for African Americans, and Paradise Park was not just for Marion County. This was the only place that African Americans could go and like feel like they're in a safe haven. This was the only place that they could go. They had other swimming holes, but Paradise Park was the spot that everyone wanted to visit. They could go into Paradise Park and not have to worry about anyone chasing them off or being stigmatized just because of the color of their skin. This is a picture of the ladies at Paradise Park, and these were students from Howard High School. And Dr. Faye Gary, who is a former UF professor, she's featured in this picture. Now she's a professor at the Western Reserve University. Did anyone know Dr. Faye Gary? Never? And then 1 year later, Dr. Bethune, I done talked so much, I feel like I'm talking over. Dr. Bethune had Bethune Company there at Paradise Park. And that's her grandson, Albert, that she raised. Albert didn't share those same values that everyone else did at Paradise Park because of his grandmother's influence. He played with the Rockefellers. He was of the elite crowd. And he said the only reason he came to Paradise Park was just to check out the women. And he's still living. He's about 93 years old, and he's still living. So I had the opportunity to meet with him. Quick story. Went to meet with Mr. Bethune down in Daytona. I didn't know he was of the status that he is. And I seen the security guards walking in the hotel just following. You know, I'm sitting over there talking to him, just taking pictures with the camera phone, selfies and everything. But they were watching me the whole entire time. And I didn't know that they were watching me because he was sitting with me. I could have been shot. The American Legion hosted the Miss Paradise Park contest on Labor Day weekend. This is one of the biggest events ever that they will have. They will get women from all over the different parts of the state, and then they will come to Silver Springs, Paradise Park at Silver Springs, and they will host these contests. And this was a mailer with the Paradise Park winner on it that they completed with the taxes on it. So you had two parks. You had Paradise Park and you had Silver Springs. Similar amenities, but just 3 miles up the same river. So they were on the Silver River. Keep in mind, we're talking on the same little body of water. They were on the Silver River. But if you look at these two pictures of the park, you see Silver Springs. At the head of the spring, you can see much more water. But Paradise Park up the river is more treed over. Question?
Is it downriver or upriver from Paradise?
Silver Springs is considered the head of the springs. So is that up or down?
If the head is the Silver Springs, then it'd be downriver, down Silver River, towards Ocklawaha, is that correct?
No, Paradise Park is towards Ocklawaha from the head of the springs.
Okay. Yeah, so
So is that down?
Paradise Park is downstream. Downstream.
Okay, it's down the street. 3.5 miles down the street.
Really?
From Silver Springs. Okay.
I've been on that river kayaking once. Oh, with questions at the end.
Please.
I'm sorry. I'll ask you later.
You know, I just like to say stuff. Remember that kayaking question. Swimming. Underwater photos. These are two of Bruce's pictures that he took at the park, Paradise Park and Silver Springs. Keep in mind, we're talking about the same body of water, the Silver River. And then you had the deer ranch. Paradise Park had their deers. Silver Springs had their deers. But I think they intermingle at times. I mean, how can you keep one deer? You know, I think they must have kept in the same places. And then they had the Clear Blue Springs. So this is the picture that was displayed at Howard Academy Community Center. And if it was a larger version of that picture, you would notice that it's African Americans hanging over that boat. But I had always seen this picture, and I was not familiar with the other picture. And that's where the quest trying to find out where this place existed. Ross Island reptiles. You had, this is Ross Island, collecting all types of snakes. But then you had the guys that he trained at Paradise Park. This is J.D. Williams. There's also James Glover, and others that he trained to milk the snakes. And they also rode in the Christmas parade with the snakes around their neck and all of that good stuff like that. And then you had lifeguards that trained at Paradise Park with Newt Perry. How many of you know who Newt Perry is? He's a big, y'all gotta Google Newt Perry. He's a white guy. But he would never pose with any of the guys that he trained with at Paradise Park. He would train them, but he wouldn't take any pictures with them. So this is on the right-hand side, you have Henry Jones, you have Robert McCants, you have Henry Jones, Robert Thomas, and George McCants. These are the three individuals that's still living out of that picture. That's right here. Paradise Park was a safe haven. They had basketball camp. They had the shuffleboard games, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the church services, the beauty contest, swimming. It was the place to be. In 1964, you had individuals trying to desegregate the beach in St. Augustine. We're talking the Atlantic Ocean. That they didn't even want black and whites to swim in the same ocean together. Now that's enough water for everyone. They didn't even want the blacks and the whites to swim in the same ocean. But it was all about a fight for equal access. And I'm told by some individuals, it's not necessarily that we wanted to integrate, we just wanted to have equal access. If you had something, we wanted it too. We wanted equal whatever you had. We didn't have to come together, but we wanted to have equal education and everything else. So in Marion County, this is Mr. Frank Pinson here, who led the civil rights movement there. This is Covenant Baptist Church, which is, the church is not standing, but the church is still there, not this particular building. And L.C. Stevenson, who was the president of the Fishing and Hunting Club. And the whole issue behind the Fishing and Hunting Club is the legal way that they could tote weapons. So if you needed to protect the civil rights movement with the younger people, you toted weapons to protect it. So he still lives in Marion County. Just running through these slides. As I go and do different presentations, you have family members that come up and say, well, I have pictures at Paradise Park. But they didn't know the pictures were of individuals at Paradise Park. And this family here, the Jackson family, had these pictures in their collection. But the daughter didn't know what Paradise Park was until she came to one of the presentations, so she found out what Paradise Park was. She had these pictures forever, but she didn't know what Paradise Park was because all it says is Paradise Park. Paradise Park closed in 1969, so you say assimilation or integration. It was a loss of culture, food, music, dance, family, togetherness, the safe zone. And some say assimilation because everything at Paradise Park, nothing from Paradise Park was brought over to Silver Springs. It was just completely closed. Completely closed. Nothing kept from Paradise Park to be brought over to Silver Springs. And they just started displaying the items that they do have at Silver Springs State Park. Documenting history. Who's documenting your history? Each one of us in this room today has a history to tell. But who is documenting our history? Who's writing our history? For the students, you read those textbooks. Whoever wrote the textbooks, they write from their perspective. But is it 100% accurate? Not necessarily, it's from their perspective. So if we're not writing, if we're not documenting, who is writing our history? What story would you like your legacy to be documented? What is your story? Who's writing your story? Your travels. If we don't document it ourselves, if we don't document our history, the history will be lost forever. And this is another picture of Dr. Bethune grandson. and he's now writing a book on his grandmother. The historical marker was sponsored by the Friends of Family Foundation and the Civil River Museum. This is the only historical marker in Marion County that depicts African American history. The only one. And it was established in 2015. The only marker that we have here. So what's there now at Paradise Park? On the left, this is Eddie Marine, the only park manager. But on the right, this is the ladder that's off of that deck. Piles of benches and debris. There is nothing back there. History is history, but who's writing your story? How do you document your history? This is Lois B. Miller. She lives in Ocala. She's 104 years old. Are our history makers the ones that are deceased, the ones that we read about in our African American studies or in our studies in general? Or are our historians right in our circle that we choose not to document their history because it's not as significant as someone else's history? They may not be the professors, they may not be the deans, they may not be the presidents, but their history exists. How many of us are interested in documenting their histories? And not their histories, but the history of those individuals in our circles. Our family may have a serious history. But do we think our family is as significant as the next family? If we don't, our history won't be written. My story collection is something that I started. And I wrote about Austin Long, who's a businessman in Marion County, owned one of the first grocery stores. He passed away last year at 101 years old. There's only 4 places listed in the African American heritage for Florida. 4 in Marion County. Just 4. But Marion County used to be predominantly African American. The county was built on African American labor. So whether it was slave labor or not, the history still exists. But where is that history? Have we documented it anywhere? Can't go pull a vertical file. There is no information about it. Walking by faith is Mr. James. He's just another ordinary man that lives here, lives in Marion County. He's 96 now. They just named the park after him. He's a community leader. He still visits the sick. He visits the prison ministry. He does a lot of things, and he's 96 years old, living on the same property where he was born in 1921. Yes, that's the right age. Who's documenting their stories? Are their stories significant? Are your family stories significant to be documented, to let someone else read about it? Started in
Yes.
2005, and now we're up to 2016, but we still need more information about this park and other history. This is a picture of me just standing on the grounds of Paradise Park. It's a beautiful piece of property. Beautiful piece of property. Moving forward, are we there yet with the racial divide and how we view individuals? Thought to ponder. Race disconnects us. Religion separates us. Politics divides us. And wealth classifies us. Do you think that's true? I really appreciate Bruce Moser, because when I started this project, he took me under his wing. He allowed me to come into his office, literally gave me his office to find slides through in developing this program, developing the pictures in the book. And I didn't talk a lot about the book, because if I tell you everything that's in the book, then you're not interested in buying the book. So just hit little cousin, worked for Mr. Mozart until his death. I think she worked there 30 or 40 years with him. And this is him receiving his book in the nursing home. Purchase, order, or donate a book today. I would like to see these books along the side of every book that's written on Silver Springs. If a school has a book on Silver Springs, I think Paradise Park needs to be somewhere near it. Everyone in here is not interested in Paradise Park, but you may know someone that is interested in purchasing a book or donating a book to a school so they would have the history on Paradise Park. Questions?
Because we're streaming and recording this, we ask you to come to the microphone to ask your questions. Who's going to be number one?
The kayak-activist.
Hi, my name's Tom Marisi. I appreciate you coming out and telling us about this. I've kayaked the Silver River a lot, and there's the state park there just to the south side of the river.
Yes.
Does that encompass Paradise Park at all?
Yes, it does.
It does.
So if you're kayaking down the Silver River from the head of the spring, there was a cut through that was, trying to tell you, Fort King Waterway.
Yes.
You know where that was?
Yes.
Okay, so the Fort King Waterway is Paradise Park. There's a gate there, so if you kayak down the river now, it's a gate there, and that will be your landmark to show you where Paradise Park was.
So I've been at there's a takeout down from the spring that you can go to. That's kind of the only place where you can stop and
Yes,
get
we
out.
passed it.
Right past it.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna look really closely at this.
We're working on putting a marker on the riverside.
Oh, that'd be great, right in the water.
Yes, not in the water, but.
Well, I mean, on the riverside,
Yes.
right next to the.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
What about restoration? We saw that concrete there, let's restore it, and, I'm a sixth generation Floridian. My mother's a 43 Fort White graduate, where we had Ichtuckney Springs, which is another of the jewels of Florida. So thank you so much for your presentation, and look forward to going again and getting your book and you'll sign it for us, right?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Is there any hope for restoration? Terry, you have to.
The question was, is there any hope for restoration of the park? There is hope, but with all of the projects, I don't have anything like this to solicit for funding. But there is hope for the park, but everything takes funding. And with Silver Springs and the DEP, they have this long, drawn-out conceptual plan. But when it gets to Paradise Park, there's very limited information as to what is going to be done with that area and the funding. I'm always interested in funding because if there is wording and no funding, we know what happens with that.
Is the property owned by the state? Is the St. John's Water Management District that owns it?
Silver Springs State Park owns it.
Silver Springs State Park, interesting.
Yes.
Department of Environmental Protection.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Any other questions? Comments?
Good show.
Thank you all very much for being here, and Cynthia will be signing books over here. The books are for sale, and I know that she will be happy to interact with you as she's signing them, and she'll probably take questions as well. So,
One quick announcement. If you are here for my Count 1000 class, the code is UF Speech and Debate number 1. UF Speech and Debate number 1. And if you're watching this via streaming, that's the code. Go to the assignment section, answer the 1-question quiz, and you'll get your 5 extra credit points. Okay? Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.